Hey everybody, welcome to Electronic Cafe. Today's episode is about one of my favorite bands, Skinny Puppy. So I just wanted to review some of my favorite music and their releases. Show some of my collection, was just kind of vast, but I won't get into the memorabilia stuff. I do have a lot of memorabilia stuff. There's a poster up there, Skinny Puppy. One of those mask things, and I got a lot of their memorabilia. I should have worn my Skinny Puppy shirt, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to go overkill today and be a super nerd. I'll just be a solid nerd today and dork out about one of my favorite bands, Skinny Puppy. Tell you about my history of them and tell you about some of my favorite songs by them. So I got a chance to. My brother got me into Skinny Puppy in roughly about 1987. I was about 11 years old, and he was 13. I think he was in 8th grade at the time, and he had a friend that was at school that was kind of goth, and they would share a lot of music. I remember I think his name was Chris. But he was very knowledgeable about music. Got us into a lot of cool music like TSOL and Bauhaus and Skinny Puppy and Front 242 and Frontline Assembly and stuff like that. A lot of good of the darker music. And I was already kind of really gravitating toward like Skinny Susan and the Banshees, and of course I was a big Cure fan. So I was really ready for some darker, more atmospheric, dancey kind of, cool band that I could really gravitate to and really kind of really call my own, because in a lot of ways New Order and even Depeche Mode, even to a point The Cure, but Susie and the Banshees, those were all bands that my older sisters got me into when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. So I kind of felt like I was looking for when you kind of get knowledgeable about music, you kind of want to find your own sound, and you kind of get influences from certain people, and then find excuse me, got a little bit of indigestion today. I had too much coffee, but you kind of find your way through music, and you look for some new bands that you can kind of show other people to, because it's kind of interesting the way that people show you music and you want to show other people music, and that's kind of the cycle of of finding good music, right? Yeah, I mean, that's always been my favorite hobby, and that's a big reason why I started this channel, was to show talk about music that I like, and hopefully show other people some good music and some good songs and good remixes, and just talk about my experience with bands and kind of finding music. I think I'm a good example of somebody who went to a lot of record stores, who spent their life in record stores, and then also is on the cusp of digital downloading. And even though I don't do digital downloading, I not so actually till recently started DJing a little bit more. I started using SoulSeek just recently. As recently as like 3 weeks ago, just to get some stuff, 80s stuff for some for some certain gigs where I didn't. I needed to play some like more popular new wave stuff or 80s stuff, but I didn't want to buy it. I've always been the one, like, even if I wanted one song, as soon as yesterday I wanted a B-side from a group, and I bought the record. It was from 1985. So even if I want one song, I'll buy the original release. It's just lately I've been trying to save a little bit of money, and I don't necessarily, some of that stuff I don't necessarily want. It's not. Sometimes as a DJ, you gotta play, stuff for other people, and that happens sometimes. So, yeah. So hopefully this video isn't too long. I really feel bad. Some of my videos going to like 20, 30, 40 minutes. But some of these videos are just, unless I do 2 parts, like talking about a band like Depeche Mode's influence on me, or The Cure, Skinny Puppy, is probably just going to be some of the longest videos that I'll ever do, probably. I'm sure this video will probably be an hour, especially if I go off like I am now already. But when I think about the experiences of their buying their music and the time period and going, and I want to talk a little bit about their shows and their impact as a band. So again, my brother had a friend at school when I was about 11 and he was 13, and got him into some darker music. And the first release my brother bought back was Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate in 1987, and then Viva Sex 6 in 1988. And man, I love those songs. And then he ended up buying, Rabies, and then from then on, I started buying everything. I kind of took over. My brother stopped buying music probably around '89 once he got into like high school and stuff like that, and I just kind of like took over, and he didn't really have to, buy it because I had it. So I kind of went through all the back catalog at that time, and I got all the cassettes. And I mean, every Skinny Puppy release I could buy, I would buy. I have the DVDs of Ain't It Dead Yet. I have the DVDs of Great or Wrong or Right. I have the one of the other rare VHS videos. One of the promo videos. I just, I have a lot of their memorabilia. I even have, here's the Viva Six, one of the signed prints from David Ogilvy, who did the artwork for most of the Skinny Puppy. Well, actually, all of the Skinny Puppy records and singles when they were on Network before they went to Capitol Records. But this is one of the prints, number 17 of 100 prints for this. I gotta get this framed, but right now it's in one of my my record sleeves, which I took out so I could show you some of the releases. So the first release I bought at the time, because again my brother had 87, 88, and 89 release albums. So I immediately during 87 and 88 and I bought all the old albums. And so here's a copy of the original Remission record. Here's the Remission cassette. Smothered Hope is obviously one of their biggest early tracks that they always play live. It seems to be in their encores and things like that, and that's kind of probably the biggest track they had to start off their first record. I really like Glass Houses. Sleeping Beast is a really cool beat, even though it's a little bit too long. It's a little pushing, like 6 minutes. It's kind of redundant, but Icebreaker is a track that I always wanted to hear live, but I never did. Also, Solvent's a really good track. I don't think they ever played Icebreaker for some reason. Again, this is the original Network cassette. I always thought this was really creepy. I don't know if you know this, but the inside, these pictures right here of just some guy that sort of looks like I don't know. No, the never. It kind of looks like he kind of looks like a vampire or something like that. Just very kind of creepy, and it says Remission, a state of sleep, a standstill of conditions. These guys were so amazing, and so you don't see, and that's the great thing about like artwork in the '80s. Like they really knew how to create an image and it was more about the artwork and your visual of what they were versus what they really were, right? You didn't see like New Order doing a band picture of them smiling and posing with their keyboards and stuff like heavy metal bands would do, and it looked really cheesy and stuff like that. They had super cool artwork on it, like this this skeleton, really cool architecture and graphics, and really cool designs, really cool fonts, right? Even the network logo. How cool is that? Looks like vintage. Definitely probably inspired by Bauhaus and certain designings of the history of just signatures. Of logos and things like that, right? And architecture and colors and things like that. And growing up with like New Order and things like that, like the cover artwork was so different. You go into a record store and you see Madonna's face or Phil Collins' face or some band picture or some just some design or something like that, and then you went and saw Skinny Puppy. How cool was that? Like, this is I think this is 2015 reissue. It's still sealed. Obviously, I don't need to listen to it on, um, I don't need to listen to it on. I know this album so well. It's almost like I don't even need to listen to it to enjoy it. And strangely enough, I'm kind of surprised I don't. I thought I had it on CD, but I actually don't, and that's probably because I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I know it so well. I still haven't really ever got around to getting a CD copy. But again, there's the original record copy right there, and just a great album. I mean, there isn't a Skinny Puppy album I don't like. If I was to rank them, especially considering the old albums, that would Remission's probably my least favorite of their first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 records, right? So Remission, cool album though. And then I got the Bites cassette, right away. Back then as well, and this has probably two of their biggest tracks for their live at the time with Assimilate, which is probably their I wouldn't say they're most well known, but that seems to be, they don't do a concert without playing that song. And then the Choke, I love the Choke. The Choke is freaking awesome. They ended up putting Icebreaker on this particular one. Later on, they reissued the CD and added quite a bit more songs. And the Center Bullet, if you guys know Skinny Puppy, the Center Bullet was kind of Kevin Keys, probably first really long experimental track that actually made an album. I mean, I think it's nearing like 7 or 9 minutes or something like that, and just kind of very ethereal, huge atmosphere. This period right here, all this music, and maybe it's because one of the songs is called The Church, or Church, but this record sounds like it was recorded in a church. It's very, I wouldn't say it's cold sounding, because it's not like a, I don't know, it's not like a room that's been empty. It's like a church, like a old school cathedral, but it has some warmth in it. It has some echo. It doesn't feel necessarily empty. It's just on the colder side. It just sounds like it was recorded in a church. Christianity is a cool song. Deadlines, is kind of an iconic, lesser known song that everybody goes crazy when that song is played, because that's not one they used to play for quite a few years, and then they brought it back. I think one of the tours in 2013 or 14. But great album. I don't want to get redundant, but I'm probably going to show you everything I have when it comes to the music. But such a great pressing, such great artwork. I mean, who was making stuff like this in the middle 80s? Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, there was, but not necessarily with like skeletons and stuff like that. I mean, there was like Christian death and stuff like that, and they made some darker imagery for sure. Stairs and Flowers, not necessarily one of their best one. Of course, this had Chainsaw too, and you kind of had to get this because this had the remix of Assimilate at the time. So I can't remember where this artwork was taken from. It was taken from an old book, I believe, in the late 1900s. This is some groundbreaking imagery, design work by the artist who did these. I wish I had more information on it, but those heavy Skinny Puppy fans know that some of this artwork, and I believe it's not necessarily certain artists, but I think it's related to like some some church artifacts or books or something like that. I would say it's like cult related or anything like that, or witchcraft or anything like that. But it's just kind of the darker side of people that drew angels also drew kind of nightmarish devils and things like that, right? So not one of their best singles, but when you're collecting everything, what are you gonna do? Perpetual Intercourse. I think this is probably their most, wouldn't say their most minimal record, but the songs are all, like 6 minutes for the most part. 200 Years, The Antagonist, right? One Time, One Place is 5 minutes, 40 seconds. Stairs and Flowers is on this one as well. Antagonist is 6 minutes. And then, of course, you have Dig It on here, which is one of their most amazing tracks. So raw. Dig It and God's Gift Maggot are some of their darker, more popular ones from this period, from '86. Great record. This is, again, if I was ranking Skinny Puppy first 8 albums, this might be like number 5. So I think it's a great record, and it's still that low. That's how good Skinny Puppy was. And then here you have the cassette, which is my original cassette. These are all my original cassettes from 1980, 89, 90, 91, 92, as each album kind of came out. And here's a single cassette single for Chainsaw. Again, this has the Assimilate remix on here. Maxi cassette, they used to call it. Maxi cassettes. I was a huge fan of maxi cassettes and maxi CDs, of course. And then, so you have here's Dig It here. Here's Dig It here, and it has the choke with the remix on the second side. Regrip. Again, this artwork is from that same artist. I mean, look at that design. That's so awesome. Network, their designs are just off the chain. Off the chain. So awesome. So powerful. Dig It. This is an amazing track. I actually showed you Stairs and Flowers. I meant to show you Chainsaw. There's Chainsaw and Stairs and Flowers. Are they identical artwork? I guess they are. Chainsaw adds the Assimilate remix also. It adds a track called Cage. Other than that, I think these might be. It could be U.S. and U.S. and Canada version. Is why they released them so closely. I mean, there's only one track that's different as Cage. So, and then of course they put the Stairs and Flowers on the A side and put the Chainsaw on the A side just to match that up. But this one says 12-inch single, and this one just says Chainsaw. Go figure. And then you have Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate, right? First record I heard from Skinny Puppy. Addiction. Hard not to put Addiction in the top 5 or top 10 songs for Skinny Puppy. It would be so hard to make a top 30, but especially top 5, top 10. Skinny Puppy. First Aid is also up there for me. Easily top 10 for First Aid. Addiction's probably top 10 as well. Draining Faces, The Mourn, Shadowcast. Second Tooth, I think, is highly underrated. Terror Beat is like this album's Deadlines. I've never heard Terror Beat played live. I just think it's underrated. I wish they would have played it. Deep Down Trauma Hounds, along with God's Gift Maggot and Dig It, are some of their darkest, bigger known songs up to this point. Then you have Anger and the Epilogue. A lot of sampling on this record. Kevin Key was going crazy with the movie samples on this record. Horror movies, sci-fi, all kinds of different stuff on there. He was Kevin Key has to go down as one of the most original and amazing modular producers of all time. Not only does he know modulars really well, but I mean he didn't stick with the old stuff for what worked. He was continuing to change his knowledge. But if there was anybody who, like Vince Gill, who knew the importance of those early sound machines, was Kevin Key. I mean, that's what made these records timeless. He wasn't going out and getting a Yamaha DX7 and doing the latest Skinny Puppy and be like, oh, this makes all the sounds is just a little bit different. No, I mean, he was still working with modulars, still going into the studio, proper studio, still recording the tape. You know what I mean? Like, that's what makes these albums so amazing. They sound fantastic. Love the cover of this album. So cool. Got American and Canadian version, which is nothing new. All my old broken cassette covers. You always display cassettes and then they fall off and they break. It's a pity. I need to get some standard cassette holders. And then moving on to, well, actually, I got the American and Canadian versions of Addiction. So on Addiction, you got the first dose and the second dose, and Deep Down Trauma Hounds remix on this one, and then this one has the original Addiction. And then a different version of Addiction. And then, again, Deep Down Trauma Hounds on this one. So not too much difference. It just says, one says first dose and second dose, and one says comes with, and then a couple stars on this one. So this one's, including the remixes by Adrian Sherwood, and this is sort of the 12-inch here. So, amazing stuff. Amazing. Vivus X6. This is probably, if I had to rank the top Skinny Puppy records, this is probably number 1 or number 2. I think this has the most good songs. VX Gas Tech is an all-time favorite live. I mean, it's so fitting that on the last tour, that the first song they came out to was VX Gas Tech. It's the first song on their comeback video after they reunited and their reunion tour. That was the first track. It's just an amazing track, and it goes over great live. Harsh Stone White, right up there with Nature's Revenge for my favorite 2 slower songs. Not necessarily a huge Killing Game fan, but Harsh Stone White was their first slow song. I mean, Icebreaker kind of has a slow song in a way, but I wouldn't say Harsh Stone White is like a love song or anything like that, but it's a slow song. But it's Harsh Stone White and Nature's Revenge. Kind of, to me, it sounds like Harsh Stone White number 2. I like Nature's Revenge better than Harsh Stone White, but Harsh Stone White was like a fixture of this tour. And Two Dark Park tour, I think they played on, and Last Rites tour is just a great song. But it's kind of a great set breaker. Seeing them live to take a little bit of a break and play something that's not so amped up. And then you got Human Disease, Scum. Probably one of their most creative beats they ever made. It just hums along, really cool bass line or beat, and then all of a sudden kicks in this bass line like 3-4 minutes in, and then it's just, I mean, you just don't hear tracks like that just all of a sudden take over a new rhythm and a new sound, and it's awesome. Who's Laughing Now? That was featured in one of the movies that Skinny Puppy had a song in. I'm not sure if it's the one with Roy Rod Piper or the other one, but a 1990 movie. It was like a kind of like a drama, but that made the soundtrack. And then you have Tester, one of their probably most melodic, iconic songs. It really, there's this Skinny Puppy talks about a lot of things quite often through their whole discography, and one of them is animal testing, which this kind of cover is a skeleton of a dog, if I'm not mistaken, right? So, again, here's the negative for it. But nuclear waste, police crime, police brutality, animal testing, and then probably government lies and stuff like that. I mean, those are probably, and also to an extent, racism and things like that. They don't really ever mention racism, but they do talk a lot about class, classes and stuff like that, and the unfairness about it, and the stereotypes between, not between races or anything like that, but just the I guess more towards the class than really the culture of any particular race. But they're just not into. I wouldn't say it's fight the government, fight the system, but it's kind of educating you about to look into things deeper, and that you'll discover something that you some cover up that was done, or some misled story that didn't tell the truth, and you'll find out later about it, right? They were excellent about doing that, and that kind of came back around in their, in these times, it was more about newspapers and, TV and stuff like that. Fast forward 20, 25 years into the 2000s, and internet and cell phones and CNN and Fox and stuff like that, and what they talked about all came true in many ways, and they kind of spoke about it in a present state, where here it's kind of like, do your research, and it's a lot more cryptic, where in the new album it's a lot like, this is what's happening, I told you, this is what's going to go on. Fritter's Stella Home is a really good closing track on here. Very spooky, very spooky. Here's a CD as well, and of course got the cassette, and then I do have the fold out version as well, the Canadian, rare Canadian version as well. This is don't think I just go out and just buy stuff, just to have 3-4 copies of stuff. This is over the course of 30-40 years of, I saw it in a record store for $10. Like, I'm not going to let this sit in a record store for $10. This is a great album. I might give it away to somebody. So this is Tester here. I didn't actually get this signed, but this is signed by Kevin Key, I believe. Unless that's Nivek Org's signature. I'm not sure by that one, but probably Kevin Key. This is the red vinyl version, which I think one of them signed. Signed on the. This one's Kevin Key, signed the actual record, and so that's cool. 12-inch remix here, right? So great one there. And then you another single from that record, from Beavis X6, Censor, which was originally called Dog Shit. Of course, they had to change that because that's not gonna be taken in 1989, 1988 on a cover. Yes, He Ran, really cool record. I used to play Yes, He Ran a lot in my car because it has really good deep 808 bass. Very cool track. And then you have the extended version of that as well. And of course, here's the the single as well. All right, moving on. Rabies. Rabies is probably my brother's favorite album. I'm more into electronic music than rock. I like Ministry to an extent, but I'm not a huge Ministry fan. Not huge. I like them. There's a good 15, 20 songs that I really like by Ministry, but I like more electronic stuff. I think this is really good. I like Rodent. Warlock is obviously a great song. I really like Two Time Crime. But I don't really like, well, I wouldn't say I don't like Fascist Jock Itch. Tin Almond's a good song. You know, it's a really good record. But I would probably, if I was to rank my top 8 records for Skinny Puppy, the first ones, this might be like 6 or 7. You know, it's a good album, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of good songs on here, but I rarely play this album. And it could be because my brother played it so much. He loved that album. Here's his. This is probably his original cassette. I think this is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is probably the original cassette my brother got in 1989. Because I don't remember buying this. All right. And then the single, right? Warlock. Amazing song. Amazing song. God, I used to do so many remixes of this. And all I had to take was the edit is 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Then you have the LP mix edit, which is 5 minutes, and then I think you have the album version, which is like 5 minutes and 20 seconds. It's just like slightly different. Slightly different. I think if I remember correctly, going back 35 years to when this was released, 1989. But if I'm not mistaken, just the beginning has a little, like another 10 seconds to the fade up of the melody. It was a great album. I mean, great EP. And then I have I have the single here somewhere, of course, too. I can't even find it. That's alright. Warlock CD's around here somewhere. Great album. Very cool artwork. And this song was about horror movies. And the censorship of horror movies at the time, right? So obviously they're Skinny Puppy's against censorship, and then you have Tin Omen single. Very cool, very cool. And then moving on to probably. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't have this on record. Gotta get around to getting the record for this. This is one of the only ones I don't have. The 12-inch anthology. So this kind of takes all the singles you saw and puts them all in one. All the remixes, puts them all on one track. And that's why it's called 12-inch anthology. It's got Dig It, The Choke, Regrip, Addiction, The First Dose, Deep Down Trauma Hounds remix, Serpents and Chainsaw, and then of course Stairs and Flowers, both remixes. Then you got Assimilate, the R23 remix, and then the Test Tube 12-inch mix. So this has all the main remixes up to that point. 1989, 1990 right then. And then of course Too Dark Park. Hard not to put this number 1 or number 2. And my all-time favorite Skinny Puppy records. The cassette version. I recently, probably about 8 months ago, I sold the original Too Dark Park record. Reluctantly, but, to sell it for $300, and then it turns out the reissue just came out, which I would actually rather have an original version than the reissue. They changed the artwork on the new one. I like this artwork. It has less red in it on the front cover. I do really like the cassette version too. That's really cool. But the fold out of this, the crazy thing is this came out in the end of October in 1990, and so I probably got it sometime in November or December. And this album reminds me of Christmas. How weird is that? But I was playing this song so much in 1990. I was a freshman in high school, and I used to go over. I remember my friend Wynn. I got him in a Skinny Puppy, and I would take this over his house, and he would just be like, "Wow, what is this? This is crazy." But this is, Shoreline Poison and Rash Reflection, Nature's Revenge, and Tormentor. And my first favorite song on this was Morpheus Laughing. I mean, it's such a good track. TFWO has grown on me over the years. Convulsion and Spasmostic has grown on me over the years. I never really liked the aggressiveness of Spasmostic. There was no groove in it. It's very jangle, clangy kind of chains, kind of aggressiveness. I never really liked it, but it's growing on me. And that's what some of the best albums do. They always have the admit, and there might be like one or two songs you don't like. As a perfect example is Disintegration. The two songs I least liked was Untitled and Closed Down on Disintegration. Over the years, those have become some of my favorite, probably in my top 5 now. It just sounds like new songs from a great record that I've always loved, and that's kind of what TFWO is. And I think they played it on the recent tour, if I remember. But just a great fold out. If there's any artwork I would love to show you, if you don't know, is the original CD. So it had this fold out. I'd love to get a poster of this, but apparently it's his dream, right? So Ken Marshall, I believe, not Ken Hiwatt, Jim Cummings, sorry. Ken Hiwatt's a producer, engineer, but Jim Cummings designed this and has all the lyrics there for each track. So surprised this is still staying together. As much as I looked at this when I was a kid. I mean, just one of the coolest artworks I've ever seen. Just amazing artwork. What I wouldn't give to get this on poster. I still also, I have a few quite a few different Skinny Puppy, banners or posters, etc. I'd like to get that on poster, as well as the tour for Too Dark Park tour. I'd love to get those sometime. And then moving on, so here's the Tormentor, American and a Canadian version, the remix. This has the blue vinyl on that version. Very cool. Again, Tormentor, really cool. And Nature's Revenge, the dub. That's a great track, and to have the dub version is awesome. And then here's the Tormentor, the record, the CD, with my Amoeba sticker. And I bought this for $2.99 back in the day, used. $2.99 for something. Anything Skinny Puppy does is like how can I not buy it even though I had it on vinyl? Both versions. Oh, and then you have Spasmostic. Spasmostic CD is actually over there. It's in my. I'm using a Walking on Ice. It's like an 11-minute version. I'm using it for a new mix I have coming up. So the CD single is over there. I need to get the cassette single for this one. That's one I don't have that they actually did make. Again, super cool artwork. The depth on that, the colors, the designs, amazing. Kind of has an MC Escher vibe on that with the stairs, right? They kind of lead back onto themselves. So cool. The Shoreline Poison. Can't talk today. The remix is on here too. It's slightly different. It's a little bit more aggressive on the beat. Very cool version to have. And then you have Hearthstone White, the live version in Denver, which is also very cool to have. Which is also on the live version a year later was on. It was on in '87. The Ain't It Dead Yet as well. So, and so here's that Ain't It Dead cassette. Very good live version. Live album. They also recorded this, so I have the DVD as well. This kind of captured them. I wish the film was a little bit better, but it captured them at a great time. you know, right? Their height of their maybe their aggressiveness on stage. I don't know how else you put it. Um, and then also here's the Inquisition single. Very cool artwork. It's a close up of Last Rites. Mirror Saw, the dub remix is really cool. The extended version of Inquisition, and then one of their best B sides. If you know, you know. La Human 8. Great. It should have been on the album. If La Human 8 was on the album of Last Rite, it would have made the second half of the record a lot better. If you know Last Rites, there's a lot of turmoil in the band, right? Where is it? Here's the Inquisition CD as well. As you know, the band was in turmoil, doing a lot of drugs, not getting along very well, and Kevin Key pretty much had to, who knows what, I mean, he basically had to finish the second half of the album, and that's kind of the deterrent. He did his best, but it, for me, that's kind of the deterrent of the album. So you have, here's Last Rites right here. So you have Love in Vain, great song, great, one of their best first songs on the album. In the Killing Game, solid song. Some people love it. Nowhere is pretty solid. Mirror Saw is probably my favorite song. I think, well, actually, Love in Vain is. Mirror Song's close second. And then Inquisition's a solid song. Scrapyard is solid. River's End and Last Chance are really good. But Circumstance and Download, especially, it kind of runs out of gas on the B-side. Kind of runs out of gas. If they would have put Law Human 8 on the second side, this would have been up there for me. Again, if I was to rate my top 8 of the first 8 Skinny Puppy records, this is probably 5 or 6. It's a hard listen to. It's kind of like almost, I'm sure Kevin Key was into like Aphex Twin in '92 and doing some experimental stuff, and he did a great job with it, but a little bit of it is a little bit dated, I have to say. And here's my original CD. This came out when I was 16 years old. 16 years old. Remember that year? This was one of my most played CDs that year. And then moving on. So then, you have Process. Interesting thing about this album is still a huge Skinny Puppy fan at the time. This is how I and maybe most people found out about Dwayne Gottell passing away. There's a tribute to him. Right? Dwayne Gottell. February 1st, 1964, August 23rd, 1995. This came out in 96. This is kind of 95, 96. Not everybody has internet at the time. This is how most people heard that one of the 3 members of Skinny Puppy passed away, overdosed at his house in Edmonton, at his parents' house. How sad is that? Jeez, I can't imagine going back to your parents' house and finding your kid overdosed. Jeez, it's just really heartbreaking. One of my favorite covers. I love the cover of this. It has like this spooky face in the one lit window in an old hotel. And the hotel is called Skinny Puppy. Really cool artwork on here. Album's pretty solid. I really like Blue Surge, Jaha the opener, and Jaya the opener, and Death is really good. I like Hard Set Head. Amnesia I really like. I don't really like Cradle, the slow song on here. That was kind of like Killing Game Part 2. Didn't really do anything for me. And then we have their new period, right? So they break up for 8 years, play the Doomsday concert in Germany in 2000, and then fast forward to 2004. And they do the reunion show and then their first album since, right? Great or Wrong or the Right. Immortal and Protest, they still generally play those two songs a lot on tour. Solid. MT is solid too. Downsizer I really like. But again, of the newer albums, I'm kind of probably in the majority that a lot of the new albums, um, if I was to rate them, I'd probably give them all C's. You know, I mean, they're right in the middle. But if I was to rank all 14 or 13 or 14, however many releases they had, I mean, it's going to be they're probably all, was it all 4 or 5 are going to be in the bottom when it comes to. I take that back. Well, Weapon. I don't think Weapon's better than Remission to me. I don't think Weapon's better than Rabies. Yeah, so I mean, all 5 of the albums, the newer albums, would be at the bottom. It's all about Old Skinny Puppy. I mean, it's all Dwayne Gotel. He just balanced out Kevin Key so well. And it's just that collaboration. And that's how, talk about a testament to collaboration. As good as Kevin Key is, he's still, if he can balance off, because him and Dwayne got along great. For him to balance off Dwayne Gotel, some people need that other person to kind of edit them a little bit, or take their collaboration to another level, or you taking their collaboration to another level, or the combination of you two rising to another level, right? I mean, Kevin Key can't do a whole album by himself, as many people would agree on the newer albums. As much as he did a great job, commendable, and him live, man, if it had Dwayne, it might have been a different story. It would have been a different story. There's Mythmaker. There's really only a couple songs on here I like. The one I really, really do like, I don't have the cover. Is it Paragon? Paragon? I really like Paragon. Or no, Paragon's from Wicked. I can't remember. Anyway, it's the more drum and bassy song. And then here you have Weapon. This was, they kind of used some older gear on this one to make it kind of sound vintage. This kind of sounds like Remission Part 2 in some ways. Not only because they remixed Solvent with new equipment, which was on the original album, but this kind of has a feel of that. But Warning, Illicit, geez, I can't even talk. Paragon's on here. I really like Paragon. Salvo's really good. Servilisto is really good. Plastic Cage is really good. This is their best album of the new one, and probably the coolest artwork with the weapon with the spider. This is their last album, 2013. R.I.P. to Skinny Puppy. And then you also have these are the B-side collection here. So this adds all the B-side collections and a few remixes as well. So a cool compilation to have if you don't want to pull out all the CDs. Especially balances out 12-inch anthology really well. So you got the A's and the B-sides. Just why I'm here. This is one of Kevin Key's solo projects. You did a nice job and signed it to Tim, so that's cool. Again, this is Plateau. This is one of his more W side projects. Kind of moving on to some of his others. Another cool record I have is the Solvent. These are the flyers for the party, which is up here as well. The I Spy program there. Trucadero. This is where I saw him at Trucadero Theater, December 3rd, with Hawjob and Youth Code, and of course Frontline Assembly. What a show that was! What a show! And this is a great live album. This is very desirable. They didn't make 2 copies of this. I bought this at the show. It has Warsaw, Rodent, Deadlines, Dog Shit, Addiction, Hate Kill, Warlock, Morpheus Laughing, Assimilate, Shoreline Poison. Great collection of some of their best songs live, and they're all in different countries. Just while I'm here, I wanted to touch on the artwork of David Ogilvy, amazing artist. You can see this is right around the time of Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate. So you can kind of see the design is very similar to that time. This has SPK on it, Chris and Cozy, Severed Heads, Move, of course, Skinny Puppy, the Tear Garden, Grapes of Wrath. Great compilation right here, network stuff. I guess that's it on my collection of Skinny Puppy stuff. But yeah, so the first time I saw them in concert was '92 at the Hollywood Palladium in '92 with my brother. It was super cool. I was 16 at the time. It was in the summer. It was super hot. My brother ran into a friend of his that was in the mosh pit, broke his arm in the mosh pit. The mosh pit was intense. We were kind of way up top. If anybody remembers that show, it was like August 9th, August 11th. It must have been 110 degrees in that amphitheater. They were selling bottled waters for $6. And this is back in '92. $6 water back in '92 now is probably like a $15 water, because they were probably $1, not even $1 back in 1992. They were just, the concert was so hot. That's the first concert I think I ever took my shirt off. It was so hot. It was unreal. It was almost like the walls were sweating. It got to the point where I think we left the show like a song or two early, like because we were just exhausted, because we got there early and saw Godflesh. We were probably there an hour early into our seats, and so we had already been in there an extra hour, and then Skinny Puppy played almost 2 hours. So we were just dead tired. We just had to get the hell out of there. It was too hot. And then we saw him at the reunion show in '94. We traveled up to Philadelphia. That was really cool. Saw that with Adam X and a few friends from Sonic Groove record store in New York. Richard Hinge was there. He does some techno music, and then that after party was nuts. We went to an after party that night. Man, that was nuts. My brother got kicked out of the club, out of the after party. Man, that was a great night, though. That was a great night. Man, we shouldn't have drove home that night, though. We drove all the way back from Philadelphia we were living in Virginia at the time, and it was like a 2-hour drive, and we were hammered that night. Wow, it was a great night. Then strange enough, I kind of thought after seeing him, that was kind of like that brought back all these memories in 2004. Because after '96 and Process wasn't the greatest album, Skinny. I just got into other music, and Skinny Puppy just felt like something that was part of my childhood. And then they came back in the reunion, and a new album even, and it was kind of the culmination of meeting like an old friend, and it was, but I felt like that was it. I mean, I didn't know if they were going to do any music again, or if their tours were going to be, I didn't really, think. I just kind of thought that was it. I kind of moved on from their music in a lot of ways, and I just got older and stuff like that, and the new albums didn't impress me too much, and I think it was like 2007, that tour. My brother was, thanks to my brother, who got me really, kind of pulled me to a couple of their shows. In 2007 and 2009 were two that he pulled me to. And 2007, I mean, based on the track list and what they played, it was a lot of Rabies, and I wasn't a huge Rabies fan. And I didn't really enjoy myself at that particular show. I think it was 930 Club in DC. And then in 2009, we saw him on that tour, and that album wasn't good. Might have been not the Mythmaker tour, but I think they just toured for the heck of it on that tour, and because it was before Hanover, and it could have been the All Insolvent tour, 2009, and then they went to Europe in 2010. But that's the one where he had the big white cone. the light show, the graphics on that, the way the lights were like 3D, if you guys remember that, and United States flag and the stars all over. Oh man! And that set list was they played a lot more stuff from Two Dollar Park, and from and then I was a huge fan again, like I'd seen him for the first time. Like it was, I was so excited to that show. I mean, it just put him back on the map for me, and I got so back into their music, and from then on, I saw them every time I had the chance. So we saw them in 2013. I think I saw them twice in 2014, twice in 2015. You know, we saw Down the Sociopath tour, I Ivor Spy tour. We saw them on the Insolvent tour. Um, I think there was another name in there. We saw them tour before they went back Frontline Assembly, and then we saw them at the last tour, 2023, or it was 2022. Yeah, 2023. It was last year. Man, just amazing. And just to cap it off, the for those that saw the final tour and his alien mask, and I wish the set list was a little bit better, but still played a lot of great songs. Um, an amazing tour, amazing show. My favorite shows though was the one where they had the light show with the hat. But my favorite show was, I think it was the Eye vs. Eye, when they had when they set the scene like it was a nuclear plant, and they had like the green glowing kind of like ooze everywhere, and the lights, and the guy was walking around with the radiation detector and stuff, and the guys with the mask. And man, what a show that was. I think that's the one where he has the umbrella, and it has the radiation signs on the umbrella, and he kind of had that kind of mask with the, man, what a show that was. That was awesome. But I would show some of my memorabilia as well, some of my shirts and hoodies, and I have everything from Skinny Puppy flasks to beanies and posters and all kinds of stuff. But don't want to make this video any longer, and I'm going to cut it right under an hour. But man, Skinny Puppy, just legends. I don't, Skinny, one thing I will say about Skinny Puppy in their early days, if you listen to hip hop in like 86, 87, 88, like you hear like Public Enemy or LL Cool J or Run DMC, and then you listen to the beats on Viva Sex 6 or Cleanse, Foam, Manipulate. I mean, they kind of had like a hip hop. I mean, it made sense they carried over to dance music, but their beats were super cool for the time. I mean, dig it. Like, for example, you know, it's just kind of like it's almost like a hip hop beat. You know, it's just, they had so much street cred, you know, being played in dance clubs, and for them to carry over into, you know, necessarily people that aren't, you know, industrial fans, people that have heard them, people that can overlook Nivek Org's voice if they had to, if they didn't like it, and still get into the music and find out what amazing talent he is, but also Kevin Key and Dwayne Gotel were with their and then also Ken Hiawatt, and then, you know, David Ogilvy with their imagery. It was just, I mean, it was just and then their live shows on top of that, and pushing the boundaries of what live shows were. I mean, they're just, I hate this. I don't put God's status on very many people, but industrial gods right there. Amazing. So thanks for checking out the Skinny Puppy Show, Skinny Puppy channel, Skinny Puppy video. I feel like a Skinny Puppy channel. Thanks for checking out Electronic Cafe, and have a good rest of your day.